All right, everybody, welcome back. In this video, we're going to continue our discussion of the different types of foundations you might find in residential homes. We're going to talk about pier foundations and slab-on-grade foundations. The first one I want to talk about is pier foundations. Pier foundations have individual columns, posts. We call them piers. They're underneath the home. And each one of those has an individual footing underneath it. In the last two types of foundations, we saw a long linear piece, a foundation wall. That doesn't happen in the pier foundation type. This foundation type is really good for sloped sites, steep slopes especially. Okay, and it's especially good for flood zones because obviously it lets any water pass through it and under it. It's fairly common to be used also for porches and decks. So take a look. We've got a couple of different pictures and diagrams of what a pier foundation might look like. So here's an example here. The house is up above. It's on a steep slope, and individual piers go into that slope, and you can see that they extend into the soil and they rest on an individual footing. Okay, each one is individual. Here's another example. Here's the house above. It's resting on individual piers, each of which have their own footing. And just so you can see what it looks like in real life, here is a photo of a house built on a pier foundation. You can see it right here. Okay. And if you can look really close in there, you probably can't in this video, but you can see underneath that those piers continue. So in a flood, water can flow under the house unobstructed. So it turns out that there's a fairly common combination of crawl space and pier foundations. Okay, so the illustration I showed you earlier of a crawl space foundation assumed that your floor structure spanned all the way from one foundation wall across the house to the other. But that's not always the case. In fact, it's often not the case. All right, you might have a wider span than your floor structure could cross, at least not without some very expensive beams. So what we do is we put a system of piers down the middle. And here's an illustration from your textbook. It's figure 6.2 on page 36 if you want to go ahead and take a closer look. And it's going to show right here is a stem wall foundation. They're calling that it's a crawl space foundation. And here's one on the other side too, a crawl space foundation. Okay, so in this case, it's forming three walls, and then over here somewhere there'll be a fourth wall. Okay, so that's holding up a floor system above that, not shown, with a house above that, also not shown. All right, so this is the crawl space foundation type, but that floor system is going to have to span all the way from this wall to that wall. Okay, and that's pretty far. So what we do is place a system of piers down the center, and then your floor only has to span from here to here, and then from here to here. Think about it as like a little bridge. Okay, if the bridge is too wide, you really have to put some serious structure, which ends up being serious money. So we'll make the span smaller, we'll make the bridge shorter by putting a series of piers down the middle. Here's what it would look like kind of in this diagram form. Here's your submerged crawl space system that we've seen before. And I've added just this little piece right here in the middle. So here's your stem wall. That's this piece right here. Stem wall right here. Here's the floor system above. And it's now spanning from one stem wall to the pier system, and then from that pier system to the next one. Okay, this is really common, and it's a combination of both crawl space and pier foundations. Let me also, while we're on this illustration, take your attention over here. So we've got the crawl space foundation, we've got a pier foundation, but take a look over here. We've actually got what's probably a basement foundation. So there's a much deeper foundation over here. Okay. And to make the difference between, to go from one to the other, we have a stepped footing. So they've stepped it down and down and down. So let's take a look at what this combined crawl space and pier foundation would look like in a photo. So for real life, what you're taking a look at here is underneath. Okay, so we are in the crawl space as if we're crawling. Okay, and so here is the soil underneath. This is dirt down here. In the far distance, it's hard to see, but that is going to be the side of those concrete stem walls or foundation walls. Okay, so we're looking, we're inside the foundation, looking out, and you can see those foundation walls. Here inside is the pier foundation system. That's these right here. This one is a wood pier or column or post, probably call it a post. And each one of them has a little footing underneath it, and that's going to extend into the soil. So here's one, a little post, and it's got a concrete footing underneath it. That'll go further into the soil that we can't see. Okay. On top of those posts are girders, and they're going this direction. And here's another one, girders. Okay. And the girders are holding up the floor system right here. These are the floor joists. They're going this direction. Here they are again on that side. Okay. So when we talk about 24 inches clear under the joists, that's these ones. See how they're higher because they're resting on the girders? And so 18 inches clear under those girders. Okay, so every now and then a person is really going to have to work hard to get under the girders, but then they have a little bit more room to crawl and to work under the joists. Okay, so that's what the crawl space and pier foundation will look like if you're kind of under there. And this is really, really common way to build your foundation under your home. So let's talk about the last common shallow foundation system under a home, and that's called a slab on grade. And it is a concrete slab at or near the grade level. Remember, the grade level is the level of the soil or the dirt outside the home. It's kind of the existing level of dirt. And a slab on grade foundation serves as both a combined floor and foundation system. Okay, so not only is it your foundation, but you can also walk on it. It's pretty common around here in the Bay Area in mid-century modern homes, especially Eichler homes. So you might know about a slab on grade foundation. It's also really commonly used for garages specifically. So even if you have a home that's built with the crawl space or the crawl space and pier foundation system, okay, you might have a slab on grade in the garage. It's fairly common. And here's the diagram of what it looks like right here. Okay, and notice immediately that it's much shallower than the other types of foundation systems. Okay, so here we have the slab on grade, and it sits right here on the ground. There's two common ways to build a slab on grade system. And take a look at this diagram from your text. Let's walk through how they're built. And notice, by the way, this diagram isn't in the foundation chapter, strangely. It's in the floor chapter. Okay, so take a look in chapter 7 for this particular diagram. So there's two different ways to build it. One on the left is going to look very familiar to you. This looks just like the, excuse me, the crawl space foundation with the footing and the foundation or the stem wall. And then on top of that, we've got the wall system. What's different here is take a look at the floor system. It's not a wood floor system. It's not resting on the foundation. It's its own floor system over here. It's a concrete slab on grade floor. Your wall system is sitting directly on the foundation without having the floor in between. Okay, so there's a little bit of difference there. Also the earth fills all the way up in here until the floor system sits on it. Okay, but the structural piece right here, that's the same. Okay, this way is how most slab-on-grade homes should be built. Okay, here's the other way to do it. It's called a grade beam. And in this case, the floor and the foundation system right here are poured in all one piece. Okay, this is less expensive. Okay, but there is a problem in that it's prone to cracking. Okay, because the floor system moves and stretches differently than the foundation perimeter system. Okay, and so there's a potential for cracking right there, which is noted in your textbook on the floor chapter. Okay, all right, this one, the grade beam, is far more common for garages, okay, where we don't much care about that cracking. So, and here's one more illustration from your textbook showing how this slab-on-grade system is built. So we can see that the earth is underneath. Remember that we're always bringing those loads down, spreading them and transmitting them to the earth below. And so here we have that grade beam system. And then over here we have the concrete floor. It's a slab on grade. It's poured with a layer of gravel. And then in this case, a layer of insulation. On top of that, this white piece, it's super thin. Okay, that's just a plastic sheet. It's called a vapor barrier. It's to help prevent any moisture from migrating from the soil up into your floor. On top of that, we pour this thickness of concrete. That's our floor right here. And in the concrete, we embed a system of reinforcing wire. Okay, so this is metal, wire mesh reinforcing. I want to mention over here in the grade beam, we also reinforce this concrete, and that's right here with much thicker reinforcing bars, which are also called right here rebars. That's a kind of an abbreviation or a nickname. Reinforcing bars become rebars. Okay, just like every other foundation system that we've talked about, the wall system is going to rest on top and transmit the load down into the foundation system. All right, so we've covered the four different common types of foundation systems. Those were the basement, crawl space, pier, and slab-on-grade foundations.